Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's featured release unboxing video for April 2023 for Genesys Cloud. I am Edgar Quadra, Solution Consultant here at Star Telecom. On the video today is Randall as well. Randall, say hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. Excellent. So just the two of us this month. Alexander, he's tied up with some client requests. So we're going to go through April. It appears to be a slightly lighter month of release, but I think there's a couple of key gems that we can definitely talk about and get into. So let's start first with April 2023. And right away at the platform level, so platform is the overall platform of Genesys Cloud. There's two. There's automatic inactivity timeout improvement. So Genesys Cloud improved the automatic timeout. This improvement ensures that certain system API calls no longer reset the inactivity timeout. I think Randall, you've got some experience working on this, right?
Yeah, actually, we are working on a health assessment, both for new customers and existing customers, and this is one of the things we're checking. It's a feature that a lot of customers don't think about, but it is important. What it does is that if an agent's sitting there not doing anything for a certain period of time, it'll log them out of Genesys Cloud. It's important to remember that sometimes agents are working from home, and sometimes you don't have control over the agent desktop to set auto lock features on their desktop environment if they leave their PC for a certain amount of time. This allows you to enable that functionality inside of Genesys Cloud, and I highly recommend it, especially for remote users.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, so definitely something to look out for. I think I went deeper into the feature, and it looks like they might have delayed the rollout of this improvement connectivity timeout feature. So maybe just for the sake of time, there is more reading that you can get into and look at. Let's see here. Yeah, maybe why not? Temporary, the customer reported that the changes to execute certain API calls from resetting it caused some agents to disconnect from the interactions. Okay, so it looks like they might have found a bug with this feature related to more the API timeouts of this feature, and so they've rolled it back. So it's actually not active, and probably next month in May we'll see an update to that. Okay, maximum voicemail recording length settings. So for those customers that like to leave novels in their voicemails, I know there are a few out there, they can record up to 15 minutes worth of voicemail recordings. So have fun, everyone, with that new feature. But it's good, right? So definitely improves the customer experience, letting them convey their message in the voicemail settings there. Introducing data action performance views. This is actually very fun. This is a very fun release. So under the new performance views, I'm just going to bring over my view here. And I think this has been sorely needed, or very needed, in this environment. But under the performance tabs, if we scroll down to the bottom here, we have API and data usage performance views. So if I just open up first data actions in my tab in here, we can now start seeing reports. This is great for developers and admins that are more geared towards the integration parts of Genesys Cloud, where we can now get very quickly to see which data actions are being called, how often, what are the details, how long they're running, right? So from a performance standpoint, some people may have business requirements where they need these APIs, these data actions to be called right away, and how long they're performing. If there's errors, you can definitely see here, I published it, but there's something that's not working. So incredible information here from a developer standpoint. We can drill down a little bit more, and you can see what times these actions are being called, right? So if you have data action come from self-serve APIs or self-serve IVR, you can start mapping maybe customer activities with how often those data calls and when they're being called. Randall, you have something to add?
This is another report that we've added into the health check. it's also, to your point, I think it's also a good tool. Okay, so we've troubleshot issues where there was lag in Genesys Cloud, maybe data being presented to an agent in scripter, or perhaps the scripter, something in the environment isn't happening as quickly as it should. And so when you start looking at, all right, what could be the issue, checking the APIs to make sure that they're delivering on time, and the information on time is important. And it also can eliminate the API so you can start focusing on something else. One of the big areas that we're seeing a lot where there needs to be more focus. Yeah, exactly. And one of the exactly right. One of the places where and you can schedule this, right? So because it's a view, all the tools here for going and scheduling reports. So you could go in and write a filter to only show, to send you a report for when you're seeing errors, right? Or percentage of errors. Just like the MOS score report, when you're looking for poor call quality, if you're using a lot of APIs, running a weekly report or perhaps even a daily report that shows you when you're having high error rates with APIs is important. And then on the flip side of that, it's a troubleshooting tool to eliminate the APIs as a problem when you're dealing with lag. Because what we're actually finding more and more is that agent environments are a lot of times, I'll give you an example. We had a couple of customers we've been dealing with recently where they're using a Windows PC. They've only got 8 gigs of RAM. 8 gigs of RAM is fine if you're just running Genesys Cloud, but if you're running Salesforce and a few other applications, remember, Genesys releases their minimum requirements, but as you add other applications, they have requirements. They start piling on, that can cause lag. So how do you troubleshoot that? Well, this is a tool to eliminate the APIs as being the issue, so it points more in that direction. And then you can start looking at the PC environment. I know that was long-winded, but these tools are important for us to troubleshoot when things aren't working the way they need to.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Randall. Yeah. Definitely a good one to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, next one here. Introduce a new topic tab to agent queue and flow summary and details view. So supervisors and administrators can now use the topic tab in agent, queue, and flow activities to analyze and details to view, analyze, and analyze speech and text data across key contact views. So again, if I go back to my performance views, and what is being talked about there is if I go to agent and I go to agent performance here, now what's really cool is I'm looking at these agents. I can flip to the topic tab. And now the whole topic trend-in data that Genesys Cloud uses for sentiment analysis, so when certain topics are being detected within Genesys Cloud, those topics are now tying back to the agent. So this might not be the greatest example in here, but we could see here no topics detected, but what topics were detected, right? And these are all the topics that are available to be searched. So we can now start seeing that for IVA here, if there was topics detected, I'll be able to go ahead and either filter and display those topics being presented or being picked up, filtered by the agent view. So are they saying correct things, or are they saying incorrect things? So inappropriate topics that can be picked up in here can be tracked and viewed upon and recorded within Genesys Cloud. So incredible, a very powerful tool from a quality management perspective, but also again from a business insight perspective, what topics are being talked about by my agents. And let's dive deeper into it to see what we can accomplish with that data. Okay. Extended voice transcription services support for Arabic and Hebrew, right to left languages. So Genesys has the ability to leverage third-party transcription services like Microsoft Azure, and now because of that extended transcription services, Hebrew and Arabic languages are supported for that extended transcription services. And so another improvement. Topics and phrases support for Arabic left to right languages. Again, keeping with the same theme in here, being able to support these languages for topics and phrases, which is what I just showed in here, right? So key thing here is if you have agents that are handling those regions from a support perspective, from a sales perspective, we can now get topic trending and topic analysis for those specific languages. And you would do that just under all the dialects and select the appropriate one here. So Arabic AE. Go ahead and now I can pick up topics for that particular language if I'm supporting that for my client base. Very cool.
I think the whole topic analytics is incredible, and I think that tuned effectively. And what we're seeing is customers that use this, it can really make a huge difference, because if you know why your customers are calling in, then you can build training modules to make sure that your agents know how to treat your customers on those topics when they call in. And then you can use sentiment analysis to ensure that, and of course, sentiment analysis in the QA process to ensure that your agents are picking that up, right? It really lends itself towards making sure the agents have the right tools, and that all leads into minimizing burnout in contact center. It's a huge issue, especially nowadays where contact centers have issues finding agents, right? So you got to keep your people there. You got to provide them with incentives and tools so that they don't get burnt out. And this is a huge one.
Yeah, really, really awesome. Okay, next one here is, let's say not a workaround, but there is a per day limit of 50 evaluations per agent that can be done on one given day. And if you were hitting that limit, then you were not able to do those ad hoc evaluations. And by ad hoc, you find an interaction, you go to the quality tab, and then you add an evaluation to it. So let's see my interactions, and I would go ahead and go to my quality tab and be able to add an evaluation. So create an evaluation. This is an ad hoc way. There's also, the policies that's able to assign it. So if you came up to the 50 evaluations per agent per day, you weren't able to add ad hoc evaluations. Genesys has removed that limitation where you can add ad hoc evaluations if you already hit the 50 limit per agent, which is actually kind of incredible. I'd have to talk to Alexander. Why would an agent per day need 50 evaluations? Randall, do you know?
I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyways, okay, it's a good limit, I guess. Data action in rule conditions for digital campaigns. So outbound administrators can now use data actions to conduct pre-contact rule conditions in outbound digital campaigns. That opens up a lot of creativity.
Absolutely.
For outbound campaigns, digital campaigns, so that includes email and SMS, we now have the ability under digital campaigns here. Let's go to rules. Very quickly, add a new rule, blah, 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 blah. What this allows us to do is being able to do for a pre-check under email campaigns, the agent's email campaigns, do a check. So maybe, for example, maybe an email address, run it through a spam filter, for example, or I'm trying to think of a particular scenario now, but it allows you now to do a lot of pre-checks before that email, before the SMS goes out, and being able to call data actions just opens up a bevy of information. So do a data action to check another database to see, should we send this out or not, or maybe attach a document to this email, and that's all now available through data actions.
And even simpler stuff than that. So rules in the dialer sense I like to call them if-then statements. If this condition happens, then do this. A lot of times customers are relying on their CRM environments to do digital campaigns because of the reporting that they need that's in their CRM.
Mm-hmm.
However, we know that Genesys Cloud is a much better outbound dialer than any CRM, because quite frankly, they've been in the business for a long time. Mm-hmm. So that being said, could you run a digital campaign in Genesys Cloud and use a rule condition, maybe a dispositioning, for example, you successfully delivered the email, or what have you, to use a REST API function to reach out to your CRM and note that, so that the reporting is still in the CRM, but the work is done by Genesys Cloud? Absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, for example, maybe you want to flag a record inside of Salesforce to say we did reach out successfully, or we didn't reach out successfully, right? If you're building your campaigns out of your CRM, let's say you tried to email them or SMS them and didn't work, so you want to try a different type of digital campaign, and you're generating your campaigns out of your CRM. Well, now you can flag that CRM and say, okay, this didn't work on with this type of digital campaign. Let's try another. You know, now to me, it's extremely powerful for sure.
Yeah. And just looking deeper into the documentation here, Genesys has stated that digital campaigns that have data actions enabled, the performance of getting those messages out will be slowed down, because there is that system check. It needs to do a system check. It needs to make sure that there's no conflicts with that data action. Right. And it looks like they did set a limit here: two rules per rule set per running campaign.
Right. The reason for that is simple. In a voice campaign, of course, let's say in a predictive campaign, well, you can only make so many calls with the dialer when you have X amount of agents to try to keep them busy, because if you dial more calls than that, well, then you're going to abandon calls. You're not going to be able to connect them to agents. But in a digital campaign, there's no human component there. So literally, you could send out 10,000 emails in a couple of seconds, or however SMSs that your carrier will carry, right? But because that happens so quickly, and you're sending a batch job out, the APIs and the responses that you're trying to make happen. Now, I'm not sure, because I've never looked into this, but I think there is a way to throttle back your digital campaigns. And if you throttle them back, then you'll eliminate that from happening, which is not a big deal. Who cares if you're sending out emails and you're sending out 10,000 contacts, if you're throttling so that it's only sending out a half a dozen emails every 2 minutes? Who cares? It doesn't have to be all at once. It just needs to be done. So just food for thought on that.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Randall. Next one here: notification messages for conversation disconnect. So you can enable now, if during a web messaging session, if the chat gets disconnected by the agent or by an architect flow can be a chatbot, the customer will get a notification on their screen saying that a call has been, or the message has been disconnected. So I don't know, very quickly here, if I'm on here and I disconnect this chat message, the customer will very quickly say, oh, chat has been disconnected by the agent. And then we can apply rules there, maybe do a soft kind of message disconnect and so forth and so forth. But that's now a feature that can be turned on and off. And lastly here, looks like Genesys has ended support for Windows 8 operating systems and Windows Server 2012. Wow, that's a long time ago. Yeah.
It doesn't seem that long ago, because I started off my career working with Windows 2000. 2000, 2003, 2008, 2012. Yeah. Now I don't even know where we are now. So
yeah. Okay, here we go. April 12th, 2023. Only 2 releases for this week. Genesys Cloud improved the profile tab for external contacts. The profile tab now displays other contacts that match the external contact identifiers, such as external contacts with the same phone number. The user interface also contains an update to prompt agents to create an external contact and save the details when no external contact matches. Okay, so generally what is happening here is when an interaction gets connected to an agent, on the right-hand side, they get this particular screen in here. And one of the things that Genesys is really pushing is that single ID or single ID or external contact within Genesys Cloud. So it's a lightweight, small CRM. But what Genesys is promoting is when a new voice interaction comes into play, create it as a contact. So now that interaction, that DID we can now build history, we can now build customer journey on the back end. And Genesys is now making that a little bit easier for agents to either match a customer that's called back a couple times, so confirm that it is this contact, or go ahead and quickly create it while we have them on the line. Obviously, it's going to be a business decision if you want to capture some of this information, but in the long run, it does open up other features within Genesys Cloud that can help the agent along. Yeah. Import questions and answer frequent asked questions from URL. This is actually very interesting. Knowledge authors can now import questions and answer pairs into the knowledge base via public URLs. This feature enables the administrators to build knowledge base more quickly than with existing online content, as well as review and edit imported content and find missing questions before the final import. So that's very interesting. Actually, I was just talking to one of our large retail customers yesterday about building up the knowledge base, and I showed them the import feature. But now I'd have to go back to them and see if they have that knowledge in a public URL, and so they'll be able to actually import the just their knowledge base from their online area. This actually, if there's a SharePoint website, so if all our customers are using SharePoint and they're keeping their knowledge repository in SharePoint, potentially you can make that SharePoint URL public and have Genesys import that information without actually having to use the knowledge APIs, or potentially not having to use the knowledge APIs. Sorry, I'm kind of brainstorming here, everybody. I'm sorry. Because I was just talking to a customer about this yesterday. All right, that's it for April 2020 or April 12th releases. Let's move on now to April 19th week. Single sign-on configuration enhancement. So contact center managers can now use drag and drop functionality to easily upload the X509 certificates into Genesys Cloud SSO configurations. For more information, go to the interaction section, or you can just ask Randall. Randall, what do you think of this?
Well, it's just even the old method wasn't that difficult, but unless I remember setting up the first time, it is a bit confusing. So if you pop it open, I'll talk about what
I have it right
here. Yeah, that's the new way, which is easy. You just drop it in there. But before, you had to take your certificate and add it in there, and you had to hit a plus sign, and it wasn't intuitive. This is much easier. Drag it in there. It's going to show it's there, and bang. So I like it a lot better.
Yeah, excellent. All right, contact center campaign performance views for agents. So campaign managers can now use the campaign performance view and summary details to see current and past metrics and data for those campaigns. Agents can also review this information. So let me quickly open up my space in here, my performance views, add, and I'm going to assume, nope. So it's under performance and outbound campaigns. So there's probably, I should have read the information in here. I'm going to assume it's a permissions that will enable under the performance views agents now to get access to this view. So if my agents are part of different queues, are part of different outbound campaigns, they can kind of see the metrics of the overall campaign. Leave it up to the business if they want to enable that or not. But again, another feature for the agents, or more data for the agents to kind of work with. progressive prompts in Genesys Dialog engine bot flows and digital bot flows. Flow authors can now add and configure a collection of prompts in the bot flows. This feature enhances the customer experience by enabling the bot to ask varied consecutive questions to determine the customer's intent. Okay, so from what I understand this to be is the bot would generally ask questions one at a time and wait for a response. And that I think would be considered an intent. What I think is happening now is when the bot presents that question to the customer and the customer responds, it could very quickly within the same session ask follow-up questions to figure out those intents even more. Reading the description, that's what I think it is, but we would have to, when this comes up with our customers, we'd have to confirm that with our actual bot SMEs here in Star Telecom. But again, feature enhancements for AI and for any customers that are currently listening or users or viewers, Genesys is really pushing and really enhancing their AI tools. So again, you no longer have to reach for third-party AI tools to build those features in Genesys Cloud. They are now becoming fully available out of the box into the platform. And every day, every month, there's new enhancements to make out of the box AI tools very competitive with the market.
And simpler to deploy.
It's very easy now to deploy bots within Genesys Cloud.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that over the years, when people want to start leveraging more artificial intelligence and bots, it's daunting, it's cumbersome. So sometimes the projects run out of steam because, quite frankly, the work to get it configured, and not just in Genesys Cloud, that in general. So what we're seeing now is the simplification of artificial intelligence, bots, and this sort of thing to get impact quicker, right? And in some cases, maybe you do something simple like enabling a voice rec to get in your IVR just with keyword searches, and then you keep building from there to eventually get a fully, NLU, natural speech language IVR with artificial intelligence. So it gives you that progression and the tools to kind of go through that progression. So it's not a, today my agents are or my customers are pressing 1, 2, and 3 in the IVR, and tomorrow they're being asked how they feel and what they would like help with today by the IVR. Like that's quite a progression. But now what we're seeing is more and more features and functions in between those two extremes to now allow that progression.
Yeah. And the next feature here adds to that. So again, I'm not the expert here, and it is a little bit over my head. But what this appears, these new features here, these new actions here, gives the bot and also the administrator more granular control on how the event is being handled within the bot. So again, more granular questions, making the bot experience more intelligent, making the bot more intelligent, but also the experience with the bot much more pleasurable. Because it is able, I think, with these two new features, able to pick up more nuances or consider more of those nuances to make your bot much more, again, more pleasurable to interact with.
And more effective, yeah.
More effective, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the word I was dancing around.
Sure.
Performance insights view. Administrators and supervisors can now use the new insights view to compare how agent perform key measures. Supervisors can view the overall performance of agents compared to their goals, track improvements, assign certain modules, and so forth. For more information, see the agent activity insights. Okay, so let's jump into there and take a look at that.
This is good stuff. This is again having more insight, not just about what's happening with your agents today, but over a long time at a quick glance to see where they're struggling, where they're doing well, not against their own performance and against others. We used to see this in much more advanced analytics engines. Now to have it built into Genesys Cloud this way, as you can see,
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about contact center KPIs here. In that view you just had, there were things like attendance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Punctuality. Doesn't matter how good a job you do and how well you handle your customers. If you're not at work, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Right? So the KPIs that you're measuring in here can be a broad spectrum of all the things that you need to be tracking and comparing.
Yeah. Let me quickly see. Like, I don't even think this is pulling from. Oh yeah, it is pulling from WEM. Actually, no,
You
it's
need the
not pulling.
WEM add-on for this.
You need the add-on, but you don't need WFM to do this. Right. So this isn't workforce management data. This is just pure Genesys metrics, call center metrics.
That's correct. Yeah.
And visualizing it and actually, analyzing it to make comprehensive views. There's a lot of settings here that you can place, that you could display. There's just a lot of data in here. I mean, you as a contact center operator, you could probably know how to use this data. I don't, but all our contact center operators definitely. This is a key thing for all our customers to be aware of.
It falls in line with how you run a contact center. You develop the KPIs that are important to the business, the key performance indicators. You measure against those KPIs to see if you're above or below the curve, right? Now, traditionally, contact centers would pick the most important KPIs, maybe 3 or 4, service level, average handle time, that sort of thing. But you can see that we can compare many more KPIs. And we can compare those KPIs not just against the whole agent pool, but much more granular.
Yeah. And look, this is incredible. So from here, I'm looking at this individual and, their punctuality is low. They're not handling interactions. Okay. Since I'm going to schedule a coaching session right now directly from this, and let's talk about your functionality. Or I could see here that maybe, their empathy is low. We've designed a learning module for around empathy. Let me assign that for them right away, right now. Right? Like, I don't have to jump around to now the learning section or to schedule coaching. Like, it's all available to me here. I copy this link. Let's see what this link is about, right? Maybe I want to send this to administrators. Like, this is pretty awesome now. So this is now a shareable link that I can either send to the customer or not to the customer, to the agent, or grab that link and make it part of a larger report that I'm building for this individual. Really awesome stuff there. So again, I'm definitely a key thing, and definitely I'm going to let my marketing team know that this should be a feature that we broadcast more widely to our customer base. In our newsletter. And if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, go ahead and subscribe. Okay, next one here is Nuance Mix integration support for Australia. So Nuance Mix is an advanced AI or an AI voice bot / self-serve bot that Genesys integrated with, and now it supports in Australia as well. All right, now let's move on to April 26th. Under the contact center, brand new AI tool, generate AI summary for agent digital interactions. So the Agent Assist provides a summary of the agent's digital interactions with customers. How can agents reduce their average after call work time by using the summary during the wrap-up code? So let's take a look into this. Let's go ahead and create a summary. And when we enable it,
so what it does is it creates a summary of what happened on the call and adds it into the notes, right? So if you think about that for a second, if you're using Genesys Cloud as your mini CRM, as you alluded to earlier, or you're pushing your wrap-up codes and the summary to your CRM, you can see not just what the wrap-up code, but a summary of what happened on that interaction. And this can be critical because, quite frankly, if you see in the past what happened on previous calls, you can react to them better.
Yeah. Wow. So for everyone, for digital interaction, so that means web and SMS, that Agent Assist, the Genesys Agent Assist native out of the box, will summarize your chat transcription and create a summary that then the agents can copy and paste that into their after call work time, copy and paste that into your CRM, vice versa and vice versa. But that's saving them tons of time now, summarizing that conversation. And that's just another powerful feature. It's kind of like a low-key feature, but definitely powerful from an agent perspective. And I could see once the native voice Agent Assist comes out, that's possibly another feature that's going to be leveraged as well. Imagine that, summarizing a whole voice conversation. New workforce management scheduling menu. Sorry, Randall, you want to add to that?
No, I was thinking about that again, and it really is about empowering that agent with information, not just on what's going on now, but in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I could see where, I'm just going back to my contact center days. Let's say you had a customer that called in and they were always irate, or they were always a difficult customer to deal with. But, they were difficult to deal with, but for the most part, you could work with them. You could put in, you could put notes around that. Or let's say the customer, and that those are notes that you could put in yourself. But adding on top of that, when we're generating these with AI, you're also putting a summary on what happened on the call. So my previous example is how you could use notes in external contacts and maybe pushing those out to the CRM so that you have more of a feel of who that customer is and what our interactions in the past have been, right? And that's, of course, the agent manually putting information in. But now we can go to the next level where you can actually summarize the call and what happened in the call and add that to the notes. So, yeah, we're really getting to the point where Genesys Cloud, I don't even see it now as being a mini CRM, because you can take Genesys Cloud now and add enough custom fields and add features and functionality like this where effectively it's a CRM, right? I mean, right? It is. It's CRMs have reporting, they have contacts, they have rules on how you deal with things. I mean, we have all this stuff in Genesys Cloud now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting how this is going.
What I'm liking too is we've always thought about AI as, AI is going to replace the agent with self-serving and stuff like that. But really what Genesys is doing is, where can it apply AI to benefit the agent, right? And it's these small little things that are going to add up to a very effective workforce in the near future.
I think that's human nature. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where we thought computers were going to take over the world, right? I mean, I watched Terminator with my son the other night. It was kind of interesting, right? And of course, there's a lot of people that still feel like artificial intelligence we're going down that same path, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, as human beings, we're smart enough to take these technologies and leverage them so that we make ourselves better. They don't necessarily take over what we're doing. They become another tool in our toolbox, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's going with AI. Absolutely. People want to speak to people. People want customer service.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that little tidbit there, Randall. We should start another podcast just to chat. So Let's move on now. New workforce management scheduling menu. So within the workforce management tool, there is a new set of menus to be able to create this scheduling much more effective and easily. I wish I had Alexander on the call here so he could tell us what the differences were. But under scheduling, there's a new streamlined way of being able to create those schedules for us. So I'm going to move on here now. Automatic language detection for digital interactions here. So again, that's how can we leverage AI learning or machine learning without having now to set what language you expect this chat or the queue to be coming in from. Genesys will now automatically detect what language is being spoken in that digital interaction. So email, chat, Genesys will automatically detect that and apply the appropriate rules when it comes to speech and text analytics. Pretty awesome. Bulk changes to knowledge-based questions and articles. Authors can now make edits to multiple base questions on the fly. So instead of having to select one article at a time, you can multi-select and change the topic, or change a couple of add new phrases at one shot instead of individually doing that. Copy an existing evaluation or web form survey. So for those of us that are using web surveys within Genesys Cloud, you can go ahead, copy an existing one, and work off of that as a template. Next, move on here. Customer journey tabs in the interactions view. Administrators can now enable the customer journey tab in the performance views to see the last 60 days of the external context history. Okay. So if I go into performance views, and I'm going to click on an interaction, open up an interaction here. I should remember to start using the search along the bottom, up on the top here. That's a very underutilized feature, I think. Very quickly find what you want to look at. Let's open one up here. Let's go back maybe yesterday and open up this one in here. And I hope it's enabled in here in this environment. It is customer journeys. So that same view that the agent will sees when they are interacting with the customer, now they can see, okay, this interaction came in. Have there been other interactions associated to this customer? So just another powerful tool here where I can look at this from a quality management or from an investigation standpoint. I can click on customer journey. I can see, have they called in? Have they emailed, or have they web chat? Right? This is where it's tying in now, where if you create that external contact at the very beginning when the customer first interacts with an agent, and we build rules that go ahead and create that external contact, this is one of the tools that small little feature is enabling, which I think is really awesome from a Genesys perspective. Okay, can response source code HTML editor. So administrators and can response authors can now use HTML source code to edit and manage canned responses. So, if you live in that environment, or if you have a repository of canned responses in a website, go ahead and export that HTML, and then we can import that via the HTML source code. Access to queue agent details viewed by division membership. So administrators can now use divisions to control which users can view and export information from the queue agent details. So again, this is now adding this particular view to the overall divisions siloing or segregation of data. So it's a permission that gets added, and it allows you now to segregate the views and activities at the division level. Okay, last two here. OAuth 2.0 for custom SMTP integrations. So administrators can now use custom SMTP integration to send email. Can now use OAuth to authenticate. So OAuth is an authentication model supported by Genesys Cloud and supported by the industry, software industry as a whole. And now, if you want to go ahead and create the authentication, and I'm sure Microsoft Azure or Exchange supports this, but now you can go ahead and create OAuth certificates to complete that integration between your email server and Genesys Cloud. Did I capture that correctly, Randall?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Azure, and you said not Azure AD. Well, it would be Office 365 and yeah. Exchange. Exchange is the on-prem version, but most major email systems out there now support OAuth authentication. Yeah. Because email authentication is becoming it's not just becoming, it's been a big deal for many years, dealing with spamming and that sort of thing. So it's great. This is great. Right.
And then lastly, we talked about the customer journey tab. Was it this month or last week? And and now Genesys is just removing that tab for our customers that are using predictive engagement. There was a predictive engagement specific tab that's now been replaced with the customer journey tab that's available for all interactions and all license levels, not just licenses that have predictive engagement enabled. All right, everyone. So that ends our release video for this month, April. Thanks, everyone. It was a great month, I believe, overall. Thank you, Randall, for joining. And if you have any more questions, definitely leave the comments in the video, and we'll try and follow up with those. If not, you can send an email directly to us at Star Telecom. With that, thanks. Please go ahead, like and subscribe, and share this video with all your colleagues. Thanks very much. Have a great rest of the month.
Take care.